Hey everybody, welcome to the Hot Rod Shop. In this video, we're going to be working on a custom firewall on a Chevy C10 pickup truck. Unfortunately, we started this project long before I started this YouTube channel. So let me get you caught up on the entire project. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, hit that bell for notifications, and make sure you're subscribed. This 1965 Chevy C10 pickup truck came in as an already restored running and driving truck. It was pretty nice as well, but it was still on the original chassis with the original style steering and suspension, still had the original inline six, and the customer wanted to hot rod it and kind of do a resto mod thing. The customer came to me and wanted me to make this truck handle more like a modern chassis. Steer better, brake better, drive better. He wanted me to do a Mustang 2 style front end, 4-link rear, small block Chevy, modernize it a little bit, make it a little bit more comfortable and reliable to drive. In all reality, by the time I purchase a Mustang 2 front end with disc brakes, with power rack and pinion steering, with a sway bar kit, 4-link rear system, a rear diff, with gears, with disc brakes, with a sway bar, strip his old chassis down, sandblast it, fix the rust, box it in, plumb it with brake lines, do all that, it far exceeds the value of just buying a Roadster Shop Chassis with all the bells and whistles ready to go. So that's what we did. This is their spec series for the C10. It's basically their economy line chassis, which is still extremely nice. What I mean by their economy line chassis is this is a box tube that is precision cut with a keyed together system. It is then bent, the keys interlock, and then it's MIG welded all back together. The welds are beautiful, the craftsmanship is beautiful. Some of their higher line chassis are fully TIG welded, welds are ground and polished off, and just absolutely stunning. Those are real showpiece style chassis. This is a beautiful chassis for something that you're going to drive and drive hard, and you're not putting mirrors underneath this thing in a car show, although you could, but there's definitely even nicer chassis that Roadster Shop sells. Now all the suspension components are TIG welded. Everything is beautifully thought out, beautifully done. Cab mounts, everything's perfect. Engine mounts, trans mounts, all the steering and suspension. Already plumbed with stainless steel lines. Rack and pinion steering. Mustang 2 front end. All AN plumbing on the brakes. Everything is very well thought out. Has a rear with a gear ratio of choice, axles, brakes, coilovers in the back, all 4-linked. The chassis welds are all MIG welds, but they are very nicely done. And all in all, very impressed. So I'm not going to talk about pricing as far as the Roadster Shop stuff goes, because let's face it, material costs go up and down daily. Everything changes. By the time you watch this video, the price I say is not going to be what the price is anymore. But let's just say I could have never modified the customer's original chassis with all of these upgrades for what this chassis cost delivered to the shop. So let's do a quick overview on what we've done to this build so far. We discussed the chassis already, but we've also done a ton of work to the sheet metal on this cab. As you can see, that custom firewall is nearing completion. Again, unfortunately, that started long before we started this YouTube channel. So let's get caught up, go over everything we've done so far, and then we'll keep working on this firewall. As I said earlier, this came in as a restored truck. Running, driving, painted, finished. It was pretty evident from the very beginning that there's a lot of plastic underneath that paint. Found a lot of issues. We found heater duct sheet metal under the paint, lots of filler, all kinds of crazy stuff. We did inner and outer rocker panels. The A and the B posts, the inner and the outer, the kick panels, the bottom of the air boxes, the cab corners, some of the door jamb, the entire floor pan all the way across. We also cut the entire center of the floor pan out, made a custom floor without that big giant trans tunnel, currently making a custom trans tunnel for that Tremec, completely handmade firewall, And soon it's getting the roof skin pulled off. And some more work to this custom firewall. So the cab corners are completely replaced. Metal finished out, a little bit more work to do here. All TIG welded in, file finished off. We did that to both sides. We stripped the paint off the back of the cab, fixed a couple oil cans that were in it. Rocker panels completely replaced. All resistance welded back in exactly how the factory had it. You can see down the resistance welds along the bottom of the rocker there. The bottom of the air boxes on both sides were replaced. They're all TIG welded in and need a little bit more metal finishing so that you can't tell that they were ever replaced. Kick panels, TIG welded in, need a little bit more metal finishing there as well. The goal is to make it so no one can ever tell that any work was ever done, because everything is exactly put back to factory. You can see the floor pan resistance welded across the back of the cab, exactly how the factory had it. This cab corner, completely replaced from here down. TIG welded in, metal finished. Gas tank filler hole, made a patch, welded that in. And we are pulling the roof skin off of this. It had a tree fall on it at some point. It has a giant dent right in the middle of the roof. And some genius thought they could just take some fiberglass resin and pour it into the giant dent and let it self-level. And that was their fix. But we've got some rust coming through these seams. So we're gonna drill the skin off, put a new skin down. You can see we drilled the rain gutters off. Look at all that rust that was underneath those gutters. There is absolutely no evidence that that was there, but you know it's there. How could it not be there? By the age of the truck, you know the weather's been getting back in there, and you know there has to be rust. You have to drill these things apart to get all the rust out. The bedsides weren't too bad, but they did need some work. The arches were rotted out, so we TIG welded new arches in. The support brackets coming off the back of the arches were rotted out, which is really the reason the arches rotted in the first place, because those supports trapped all kinds of dirt and moisture. The area around the tailgate hinges was pretty rotted, so we cut that out, made new pieces and welded them in. The flanges where the rear wheel houses bolt on were all rotted, so we made some patches and welded them in as well. All in all, they were worth saving as opposed to replacing with some cheap aftermarket parts that would have required tons and tons of hours to get the fit and finish right. The truck's doors were also in really rough shape. The inner shells were all patched with body filler and galvanized ductwork. We cut the bottom of the shells off, we made new pieces and TIG welded those in, and we're replacing the door skins from the belt line down. I'll probably have a video about that coming up soon. I pulled that massive inline 6 out of there, and we built them a custom 327 with aluminum heads and a Tremec 5-speed trans. Once the motor was fit, it really made the factory Firewall look super goofy because the factory engine bump and trans tunnel were huge. It really looked out of place and it made the whole thing look like an afterthought. The key to making a nice custom hot rod is making sure that everything looks like it was meant to work together. The factory Firewall and that 327 did not fit each other. It looked like it was modified as opposed to looking like it came that way from the factory. The factory Firewall needed a lot of rust repair anyway, so we already had to drill it off and do something with it. So why fix it when we can just build a new one that fits the 327 a lot better? So here's where we're at so far. We got our main shape cut, fit, edge turned just like the factory. There's like a 3/8 flange turned all the way across. That's exactly how the original was. This gets resistance welded all the way around. We hand shaped on the power hammer this bump out for the engine. I'll show you that from the inside as well. We already Pullmaxed in this detail here where the new brake hydro boost is going to go. We're also going to mount the reservoir for the clutch hydraulics here. We also Pullmaxed in this detail for the steering coming through. That just got welded in and needs a little bit of finish work still. And what we're going to be doing towards the end of this video, we're going to do a custom bump out here for the heat and AC lines going through the Firewall, just to give it a little bit of a detailed finished look. Here's the Firewall from the back side, all hand shaped on the power hammer. The detail for where the steering comes through, we just welded that in the other day. Still metal finishing those welds out. This is all handmade as well. We Pullmaxed in these beads, as well as these beads in the custom floor to match the factory beads exactly. So we made a die to stretch these in on the Pullmax for an exact match. That way it looks like it's a factory Firewall. The factory floor, this big hump basically comes straight out. Then there's a huge trans tunnel here. We don't need any of that for this Tremec 5-speed. So we cut the entire center of the factory floor out. We hand shaped all this. Again, we put the beads in with the Pullmax to look just like the factory. This is all flanged for a resistance weld on the outside all the way across. So this will get resistance welded all the way across. You can see right now it's just held in with some clamps. So the last thing I need to do to this floor is I need to shape a transmission tunnel, and we'll do a video specifically on that. I'll probably build it on the power hammer and the English wheels. It'll be TIG welded in flush to the floor, so the floor is all one piece. You won't be able to find any of the seams. It'll have a flange here to match the flange on the Firewall, so that from the outside this is resistance welded all the way across, all the way up and over and across, just like the factory was. Okay, so it's time to get into some of the fun stuff. Let's start getting some work done. So this video, now that we're caught up, is going to be about how to use the Pullmax with a sandwich die to stretch in a bead. The Pullmax is perfect for this because it requires no pre-stretching, which you would have to do if you used a bead roller. If you're going to do this task with a bead roller, which you can do, you'd have to pre-stretch the entire bead line in order to create enough length to add that third dimension to your panel. If you don't do that, it's going to rob material from the outside edges and warp your entire panel. I'll be making lots of specific videos to pre-stretching beads on why you do it, how you do it, and when you do it on my channel, so make sure you check those out.